Hi, I'm the Pink Pastor, and today we're going to talk about the question of Advent and what is Advent. I post videos every Friday on content relating to religion, being queer, the stories of my life, and oftentimes the intersections thereof. So queer Christianity or queer religion, and how the stories of my life relate to what I know today. You can, if you like midweek content, check me out on Instagram at @PinkPastor or on Facebook at PinkPastor365. You can email me, pinkpastor365@gmail.com, or if you want more information, check out my website, pinkpastor.com. I invite you to like, comment, and subscribe. These things help me. They help me to understand what content people like, what's connecting with people, so that I can make more of that kind of content. Advent is the beginning of the church year. Most people like to think of New Year's as the beginning of the year, but in the church world, in fact, the first Sunday of Advent is the beginning of the new church year. And then we go from Advent into Christmas and then into New Year's. So Advent is then the season of preparation for Christmas. But it's a lot more. As such, it is not Christmas, which is why sometimes you'll get pastors who don't want to see the trees up in the sanctuary or don't want to see the lights on the tree turned on, or maybe they have other things. You don't sing Christmas carols. You sing Advent hymns. And the reason for all of those things is that we're not into Christmas. That's the first thing we need to think about with Advent. It's not Christmas, it's Advent. Second thing to say is that Advent these days is in fact 4 weeks, sort of. It varies in length based on when Christmas falls. So it is literally the 4 Sundays and the time before Christmas. And so if Christmas is on a Monday and Christmas Eve is on a Sunday, then Christmas Eve is also the last Sunday in Advent. You count 1, 2, 3, 4 Sundays in Advent, and that's your season. That wasn't always the case, and we'll get into more of why that was true earlier, but in fact, in the early church, Advent started much earlier, in about mid-November. Right now, though, it's the 4 Sundays of Advent, and the time between those Sundays and right through to Christmas. Advent, interestingly, often starts on the Sunday after Thanksgiving, and so often that it can in fact feel like that's when it's meant to start, even though the counting is really done in a very different way. That tells you sort of when is Advent? Let's talk about what is Advent. Advent is the season of preparation. It's a chance to prepare our hearts and our minds to receive the gift of Christ. It's a chance to prepare our homes to celebrate Christmas. It's a chance to work towards and experience that peace of God that we've known so well at Christmas. As we do this time of preparation, we have practices. And you may be familiar with some of these or all of these, but there's the Advent calendar. This is one of the children's favorite options. There's 24 little doors. Starts on the 1st of December, runs through the 24th of December. You open all the little doors, and behind each door is a prize, often chocolate. So Advent calendars are a frequent way to count the time before Christmas and to build that sense of anticipation. Often then Christmas Eve is in fact a bigger door with a bigger prize behind it. Another one that's very common is an Advent wreath. It would be a series of greenery turned into a wreath, and on that wreath is then 4 candles. Sometimes they're all white, sometimes they're all purple or lavender, sometimes there's 3 purple and a pink, but it's known as Gaudete Sunday, and it's another piece of that preparation. But anyway, there's 4 candles, one for each week of Advent. And with that, then sometimes there is a big pillar candle in the middle, which really is for Christmas. We do actually have special songs for Advent. There's one in the Lutheran hymnal. It's the very first Advent that it's light one candle. And then on week 2, it's light 2 candles. And so literally you go through this. It's based on an old Jewish hymn. And it's that it counts up those weeks. And each week you get more and more and more. In many churches, especially like Episcopal, Lutheran, Catholic sorts of circles, you'll have what are known as chrismon. Chrismon are special ornaments hung on the Christmas tree. Sometimes, like, there'll be a couple different kinds of chrismons, and each week you will hang a different kind of chrismon on the tree. Each of those chrismon then reminding us some of what Christ is about, some of who Christ and Jesus are. That brings us to Christmas trees. Many of us put up our Christmas trees in anticipation of this coming day. My caution to you is that putting up the Christmas tree, putting out the presents, in a Christian sense, would be about building that sense of anticipation as we build towards Christmas. Many people then have a daily devotion, and much more commonly in the past than today, people used to fast. In fact, mostly in the past, but they would do this season of fasting. Many Christians know about Lent much better than Advent. Advent sort of gets lost in the shuffle between Black Friday and Christmas, and sort of becomes for many a part of the Christmas season, even though the Advent season can be very much a spiritual time and can be a time of building your faith. And then you still have a season of Christmas. That's why we have the 12 days of Christmas. But it would start on Christmas Day and move forward. I said a little bit about Lent. Most Christians know a little bit about Lent. They talk about giving something up for the 40 days of Lent. Maybe we gave up chocolate, or maybe we gave up alcohol, or maybe we gave up our favorite video game for 40 days, and to remind us that these things are gifts from God. But Lent then becomes that season of preparation for Easter. Lent is 40 days. What we need to remember is that when they first celebrated Advent, and the first times it was written about are the late 300s AD. So this is an ancient celebration. We're talking, over 1,600 years that people have been celebrating Advent in some form or another. But in those early days, what we know about Advent is that Advent mirrored Lent. That's part of why I said that it started in mid-November, because it would actually start on November 11th or 12th, I believe. And then you would have the 40 days of fasting, much as you do today in Lent. This was then a time of preparing your mind and your spirit to receive the Lord. In fact, I've read that the first 2 weeks were to, in fact, prepare us today for the eventual coming again of the Lord. And then the second 2 weeks were for the preparation of the coming King, the baby, the infant Jesus. It would then have at that juncture been used as a time of preparation for people who were going for baptism, much as Lent was originally a time of preparation, often for baptism for people. So around the world, we're going to switch gears a little here. Around the world, Christmas Day is the end of the Christmas season. And what's interesting is that in the church world, remember if I talked about this a little before, Christmas is actually the beginning of the Christmas season. So while the world has spent 30 days of Christmas in observant Christian circles, we're spending time preparing to receive what comes on Christmas Day. Advent for Christians may be a period of mourning, interestingly. We think of it as a period only of joy, and while it can be well a period of joy, it is both joy and mourning. Some churches have adopted the habit of having a Blue Christmas service. this is a time then specifically set aside for that mourning component of the Advent season. Remember, we talked about joy and mourning. Just to give you one example, my best friend committed suicide in the middle of December. And so every Advent, every December really, I need to take some time to remember him and to mourn that loss and to, understand what it means for me. And so I need that place to stop. I need a place to reflect, to spend a moment, even all these years later. And it's not inappropriate to the Advent season to have that mourning alongside the joy. So, properly speaking, mourning and joy. Not necessarily the exuberance of Christmas. We'll get there yet. Because it's not yet Christmas for a Christian. But instead the season of waiting and preparing for the coming Christ. Of preparing for the new way of God being with us. Thank you for watching this video to the end. If it's your first time, welcome. If you're returning, thank you. All of your support helps me. Like, comment, and subscribe. But most of all, have a blessed Advent.